Gitmo and emails, stories that won't go away. We'll get to them in a bit. Good to have you with us. PillPack brings you this Ed Schultz news and commentary production, along with Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, and the iSave team. Listen to the commercials and, of course, always support our sponsors. Thanks so much. All right, Nevada caucus going on tonight. We come to you from Washington, D.C. Trump delivers up another news cycle soundbite. He wants to punch out a protester. You know, it's not okay. The purist is going to say, well, that's not presidential. And you could say that, gosh, he's admitting that he would commit a crime. You hit somebody, it's assault. Does it really matter? He really didn't mean it. You almost get the idea that the people that are following this guy or believing in him, they just want to hate somebody. They just want to hurt somebody and hate somebody. So, as you know, I call him now the Maginot Line candidate. But anyway, Donald Trump is expected to win Nevada, hands down. And if he does, where does that leave the race? Mathematically, it's getting to be kind of rough. The best line that I've heard so far is from Marco Rubio, who I'm not a big fan of, but he says that, you know, how could the GOP elect somebody that half the party doesn't like? That might be the case for the Democrats, too. It's that kind of year. But with all of that, Trump pissed off last night at a protester who was yakking away, and you could see that he visibly got upset. And it got under his skin, and he got mad about it and said he'd like to punch the guy. I mean, if Barack Obama had done that, he'd have been the angry black man in the next 24/7 news cycle. It's just a quick soundbite and a funny thing with the people on the networks right now. So I guess you could say that the numbness has been instilled in all of us that nothing Trump says is going to matter, and he's probably going to get this nomination. For more on that, let's go to Bob Shrum in today's political news, Democratic Strategist Professor at USC. Bob, good to have you with us.
Glad to be here, Ed. How are you?
Very good, very good. You're watching the circus, I understand.
Yeah, I certainly am. Look, if you watch the reaction of the crowd when Trump said that he'd like to punch out the guy, they all cheered.
Yeah.
And I think what we have to understand, and this is what's driving Cruz nuts and Rubio nuts, is these folks aren't voting for him because he's a conventional conservative who checks every box. Some of the boxes he doesn't check all that well. Others, like immigration, he is very far to the right. But they're not voting for him because of a set of programs or policies or principles. They're voting for him because he speaks their resentments, their angers, their alienations. And every event like that, and every event that people originally predicted was going to bring him down, not only doesn't seem to hurt him, it may help him.
And that's kind of scary in a general election, too, isn't it? I mean, not just this Republican primaries and caucus season that we're seeing running for the nomination. How do you has your opinion changed at all, or have you come up with any new scenario of your thinking as to where Trump was in a general election, say, several months ago, and what you're thinking right now? What do you think?
I think that Trump can't win a general, but this is a very closely divided country. The Republicans should probably get about 45% of the vote. Democrats get about 45%, and you fight over the other 10%.
Yeah.
But I think that his unfavorables are so high that at least right now it's very hard to imagine him winning a general election. When he talks about carrying New York, it's laughable. Now, if Michael Bloomberg entered as a third-party candidate, then all bets are off. Mm-hmm. I think, Trump could win. Clinton could win, Bloomberg could win, Sanders, if he was the Democratic nominee, might win. So that's the scenario under which I see opening the door to Trump. The only other thing that would open it would be a major economic crisis. Okay.
Trump saying he could win New York. Go down that road.
We can't.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way he can win New York. New York is an overwhelmingly Democratic state. He is not going to pull the kind of support he would need, for example, in the city, which is, there are a lot of Latinos in the city. There are a lot of minorities in the city.
Yeah.
I just don't see how he ever wins New York.
Yeah.
But I do think he's going to win Nevada tonight. I think he'll win it big. And I think he has the potential to do very well on Super Tuesday.
All right, let's talk about the chasers. We're talking about Cruz and Rubio. Who's best positioned to possibly outdistance Trump for the nomination? Cruz, of course, bagging his spokesperson yesterday. That's kind of damage control as I see it. Something that he had to do, and Rubio called him on it. Who's got the mojo at number 2 that could possibly overtake Trump as you see it?
Well, I think Cruz has had a bad couple of weeks. Ever since he won Iowa, even the night of Iowa, things started to go bad. The news about the messages sent out to tell Carson supporters that Carson was dropping out, the whole sense that he doesn't tell the truth, which I think is hurting him with evangelical voters, the way that the math works in the states where he thinks he's going to do very well with proportional representation so that he can't really amass a lot of delegates. And Trump is only a few points behind him in Texas.
Doesn't Kasich and Carson kind of have a wrench in their hand, stick it in the gearbox right now and screwing things up? I mean, if they were to leave the race and it really came down to a 3-man race, or are we there right now, would their numbers have any impact at all if they were to be gone? Because a lot of people are asking, Carson, what the heck are you doing?
Look, they're getting about 6 or 8 in most of these polls. I think Trump's right that the notion that everybody who's for somebody else, if that somebody else dropped out, they would never vote for Trump. I think he's right that that's just completely off base.
Yeah.
Trump could get 20, 30, 35, maybe even 40% of those voters.
Yeah.
And if you add Trump and Cruz and Carson together, then there's a really big majority in the Republican Party for the outsider. And that's Rubio's daunting problem. His hope is that if he can get this down to a one-on-one race, Trump is in such a difficult position with a lot of Republicans that he'll be able to win it. But Trump seems to fit the mood of the party and the party base far better than Rubio does.
Yeah.
Now, the establishment is in complete panic and is rushing to endorse Rubio, who, by the way, is no moderate. This is a guy who opposes abortion even in cases of rape and incest. But he looks like a relative moderate compared to Ted Cruz. Mm-hmm. Ted Cruz is the person that Republican establishment least wants.
All right, turning to the Democratic side, you got a new poll is out, or should I say a survey by Gallup, and the 2 words that jump out are dishonest and socialist. The dishonest word goes to Hillary Clinton. The socialist word goes to Bernie Sanders. In a word list of what comes to mind about Clinton, 21% of respondents described the former secretary as dishonest, not trustworthy, poor character. The next closest word associated is dislike. For Sanders, 12% listed him as socialist as a word to describe him, and another 6% is older, age, while favorable, and fresh face also is at 5%. Look, there's a couple of labels that are following the Democratic candidates. Do they matter, in your opinion?
Well, I think as Hillary Clinton herself said on the air the other night, people are making up their minds about whether she's in this for them or in it for herself.
That was quite an admission, wasn't it?
Right. And she's got to convince them that she's in it for them. And that's a big piece of this whole question about honesty. But I don't take that Gallup poll too seriously, because the 21% who say dishonest are people who were never going to vote for Clinton, never going to vote for the Democratic nominee anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sort of surprised that only 12% say socialist, and I wonder if some of them meant it as a compliment to Sanders.
Yeah.
So I don't think that Gallup poll tells us a lot. I think what we do know about the Democratic race is it's moved to very favorable terrain for Clinton, and for only one reason, which is her massive strength among African Americans.
Yeah. Despite
Bernie Sanders' civil rights record, African Americans overwhelmingly favor Clinton. She would have lost Nevada without African Americans. If you look at the polling in South Carolina, she would be behind without this overwhelming support from African Americans.
Yeah.
And I saw a poll this morning, Ed, that is so curious. Remember how she won West Virginia by an overwhelming margin against Obama in 2008?
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders is leading her in West Virginia by 2-1. Basically, the white working class constituency is not voting for her.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges she's going to have...
See, and that's if she goes up against Trump, that's an issue.
That's right. A central challenge is going to be to get back the Democratic white working class in the general election, to get young people to turn out and vote for her, and that even includes younger women.
Yeah.
So those are, and that sort of puts some limits on what she can say in the campaign. I mean, she can go after Sanders, but if it looks unfair, that's going to hurt her badly in the fall.
You know, Bob, for whatever it's worth, when Hillary said that the other night about the comment about whether she's in it for her or in it for them, I don't know exactly what the verbiage was. I'm paraphrasing. Why doesn't she say, you know, when I ran head-to-head against Barack Obama, I could have taken my bat and ball and gone home. Instead, I stayed in the game, and I served as Secretary of State. Because, you know, I mean, she doesn't tell that story. And I know people know it, but everybody has a personal journey. She doesn't, to me, she's void in her personal journey explanation. That she needs to say to the American people, you know, life was pretty good for the Clintons. I could have given speeches, as you well know, and made a ton of money and never worried about anybody else. But this is, what about that?
Well, I do think that if she just did that, people would say, yeah, but none of that compares to being President of the United States.
Yeah.
And you want to be President of the United States. I did think in her victory speech the other night, she did a much better job of connecting with people. She was talking about we, not I. It wasn't about her resume, but it was about the real concerns of real voters expressed in human terms.
Yeah.
And by the way, Ed, I don't know if you noticed, she seemed to pick up a lot of Bernie Sanders language about Wall Street and the influence of outside money.
I don't think there's any question about that. That's a real pivot on her strategy, and she must feel very comfortable with her lead right now, and maybe she thinks she's going to win some people over who might be thinking, well, Bernie ain't going to win it. So I'll be comfortable with this. I don't know. I that's what I thought, too. I was actually struck by all of that, and even Bernie Sanders kind of commented on it. So
right. So, you know, his challenge, and it really depends a lot on the people who have been funding his campaign. He's got to get through a rough patch here because Super Tuesday has a lot of southern states. It has some states outside, Minnesota, Massachusetts, Colorado. He's got to get beyond that and get to the Midwest and get to the West. And that's going to require money to sustain him through this whole period. So a lot depends on whether or not the people backing him send in that money.
Yeah.
I do think that we are going to see in one or both parties this contest go all the way to California in June, which has not happened in a long time.
Interesting. Well, I would think that it would take Colorado to go for Sanders for that to happen. That to me is a pretty pivotal state. We'll see how it all unfolds. Bob Shrum, great to visit, always. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ed. Bye.
Democratic strategist, professor at USC, Bob Shrum. We are back with more right after this. Hey, folks, you've heard me talk about BioGreen Clean. I'm going to show you right now on my airplane just how tough this is. I want you to keep in mind, chemical-free, 100% plant-derived, biodegradable. It is the safest cleaner that you can get, and it's the most effective. Go to our website, wegoted.com, or go to biogreenclean.com, www.biogreenclean, and order today. It's time to continue our conversation about mechanical insulation. Mechanical insulation is for the piping systems in our nation's commercial and industrial facilities. Facility owners are burning up billions of dollars through the lack of mechanical insulation on these piping systems. Call the iSave team. Insulation saves America valuable energy, and this team of energy conservation specialists is shovel-ready to save you money. Visit iSaveTeam.org to have a specialist give your plant an energy audit.
We perpetuate a culture of crime all the way from Wall Street right down to the main street in our hometowns. It's worse than it has been since FDR took control of the problem and said we can't count on industry taking care of the American labor. They probably have already engaged into some type of criminal cover-up, and the law prohibits the government from even doing anything about it.
Catch America's lawyer Mike Papantonio on YouTube at youtube.com/GoLeftTV.
PillPack, Communication Workers of America, Alliance for American Manufacturing, BioGreen Clean, iSave Team, all sponsoring Ed Schultz News and Commentary. Thanks for joining us. Go to our website at WeGotEd.com, rawstory.com, and ringofireradio.com. Speaking of which, Mike Papantonio, America's Lawyer, going to join me on TV tonight on RT America, RT.com. You can watch it. We had a great show last night. It is the news. It's a 30-minute recap of what's going on with analysis. It's not all politics either, and this has been... now that I'm a month into doing the news on RT, it's kind of refreshing not to do every single minute and story on politics. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the president and his decision to close Gitmo and to move these detainees onto American soil, which is going to be a big legal issue. Mike Papantonio will be with us tonight to unfold all of that and break it down for us. Check us out tonight, RT.com. And at WeGotEd.com, that's coming up tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern on RT America. We're back tomorrow.